We'll move on with a class discussing questions again. And we've got several questions left over from Scott and then a couple that Ruth submitted. So that will probably keep us pretty busy. Let's see here.
JJ?
Yeah.
Hey, before we start these, can I ask a clarifying question on from last week?
Sure.
Now, when we talked about angels, I was wondering if they have souls, and your response was that soul energy flows through everything. I didn't realize that, but does the soul energy come from the source and flow through us continuously, so we're always getting a steady feed?
Yes.
Trying to visualize that.
Well, we have the world of spirit, where we came from, which is like pure spirit, and here we have the densest of worlds, which is the world of matter, and the interplay of spirit and matter produces soul energy, and soul energy is responsible, fills all forms. Anything that has form is linked to soul energy, and soul energy is linked to spirit. So pure spirit doesn't communicate directly with the material world. So, and Christ is often linked. The name of Christ is itself, or the principle of Christ is linked to the soul energy. This is why in the Bible, Christ is called the mediator between God and man. So in other words, the soul energy is a mediator between pure spirit and pure matter. And to open the door to all spiritual contacts involves soul contact, meaning you make that contact, which is between spirit and matter, which is the pure soul energy. Now, the soul is different in that where we go in the afterlife, when we're united with our souls, we have a soul body. They're called the causal body. Here we have our physical body. It houses our consciousness as we understand it here. Now, our higher consciousness, which is linked to spirit, is housed in this soul body, which is composed of matter of a higher vibration, and it's very much in tune with the soul energy. So in what people think normally is a heavenly afterlife is really a place where there's a strong connection to soul energy. But that is still a number of steps down from the world of pure spirit. Okay,
now does do we, when spirit and matter combine and produce soul energy, are we producing that soul energy like there's a battery in us producing it, or do we get our supply of soul energy from our soul and it streams down?
It's not so much it produces it, it's an interplay. The interplay of spirit and matter produces soul energy, and then the soul energy sustains all life in all forms. You are alive in your physical body because you have soul energy flowing through your physical body. And when you die, your soul energy is diminished and your body just falls apart and goes back to dust because the soul energy isn't holding it together anymore. And
is that something different than we talked about last week? We have 25% of our soul in our bodies. Is the soul energy you're talking about right now different than that?
Well, soul energy is behind it all, but it's like soul energy itself, just pure soul energy is like something that has to be directed by intelligence. So intelligence gathers the soul energy and creates a body of manifestation in the soul world. And it um, is different than because it's formed by intelligence. So there's intelligence has to take the raw materials and combine them in such a way as to create intelligent forms. But pure soul energy itself doesn't really have intelligence as we understand it, you know, but intelligence uses the soul energy. Just like we use electricity. Maybe you might say electricity is the closest thing that we have in the physical world to soul energy. You can do all kinds of things with electricity, and you can direct it to accomplish all kinds of things or to activate all kinds of things. Makes the internet work for one thing, makes light bulbs turn on. But pure electricity is just there, available all the time. It just has to be accessed and directed. And soul energy is you might call that a higher correspondence to electricity.
Okay.
Science says that energy can neither be destroyed or created. So any kind of energy at all, including soul energy, has always existed. It's eternal. And it's just a matter of, you can change. Soul energy would be kind of like a potential energy. It's the possibility for it to occur at any moment. It could change into kinetic energy or thermal energy. It can change forms, but the basic energy is not created. It's eternal.
And soul energy is also the key to opening the door to the higher worlds because it interplays between the two worlds. As a matter of fact, it comes into existence because of the interplay of the two worlds. So if you are still and contact that soul energy, you can tune in to higher thinking, to wisdom, to higher understanding, to the intuition, to all kinds of things. It opens the door to higher realms. Okay.
Okay.
JJ, but how does it apply to angels? That was the original question.
Well,
Well,
angels would be have soul energy flowing through them just like any other living being. Every living being has that has any type of form has soul energy flowing through them, and those in the higher realms are just more focused on the soul energy. Now, Scott was asking about their souls projecting a certain amount of themselves. What they project down is their life force. Their life force contains soul energy, of course, and but they and part of their consciousness, but they don't. But Asaf here, who I'm looking at on screen, his soul has keeping most of its consciousness in the higher worlds and projected part of it down into Asaf. Now, if Asaf, as he progresses and gets more in tune with his soul, he can take advantage of the consciousness that is here, which is normally around 25%. And he can tune into that 75% that's on the other side and become much wiser than he would have been just using his brain consciousness. Yeah. Well, looks like old Curtis showed up. Good to see you, Curtis.
Yeah, I was extending my birthday with a golf game with my son.
Yeah, okay.
We had a great time. So what are we talking about? Where your soul
No,
goes?
we're just finishing up talking about soul energy. We'll be moving on to another question. That way you can be in on it.
Okie dokie.
Okay, any more comments on this soul energy before we move on? Okay, let's see here. Scott asked this, he says, do evil spirits of the Dark Brotherhood feed off energy created from the hate-filled strife and political division that we have? If so, could a painter see these spirits performing this act? Okay, this strife that we have, and it's amazing the amount of conflict that we have going about in the world, not only in the United States, but it's manifesting everywhere. It's amazing how similar it is. We have the two sides, the left and right, manifesting, and there's something about this virus that has really caused it to the division to be intensified. Also, the vaccine is, some people are for it, some people are against it. That's created another division. So we have all kinds of divisions going on. And so do we have evil spirits behind this? Not so much in the way that the Christians think about it, but there are thought forms generated, and people are seeing evil on the other side of the equation. The left sees the right as being the incarnation of evil, and the right sees the left as being the incarnation of evil. And these are both producing thought forms, and the thought forms are conflicting with each other. And the conflict of the actual thought forms causes additional chaos and confusion among humanity itself. Now, an artist could tune into these thought forms and paint some weird stuff. And now Jim Carrey's kind of done that. He's painted some really weird stuff. He really hates the politics of the right, and he sees some weird things that he's painted when he's from his visions of seeing that. And an artist from the right would do something very similar. But seeing the point of truth is the hard part. And that's what my second immortal book is about, called The Lost Key of the Buddha, is seeing that point of truth that is so elusive, because the truth goes back and forth like a pendulum. And it's the true way, what we might call the best vision of the way forward. It's not something you can just put in black and white and it's always there. It's moving like a pendulum back and forth. So people think they have found the source of evil or good, and then a decade later, everything shifts, and they will be wrong about where the good and evil is unless they can tune in to the soul. Without tuning into the soul, whether you're on the left or you're right, you're going to miss where the good and evil is. And so this is why there's so much confusion always in the world, and things are never settled. People think they're settled, like on the liberal side, they may make an advance that says, this is good, this shows that we're the good guys, and then the conservatives, then pretty soon the conservatives make a point, and then they'll say, see, this proves we're the good guys. Yet the points of good and evil shift, and you can never say this point is where it's at. So it's settled. It's settled where the good and evil is. So the good and evil moves back and forth like the pendulum. And the midway point that the pendulum swings over, that's the point of truth. And so sometimes the pendulum, which is the consciousness of humanity, is on the point of truth, but usually it's a distance away, distance to the left or right. And seeing the point in the middle is difficult to see. It cannot be seen with regular brain intelligence. It can only be seen by tuning in to the soul. And if a person tunes in to the inner self, he can learn to see where that point of truth is. So it's an interesting thought there. Any comments on that point?
Yeah,
I've got
Lincoln
one,
was able to
JJ.
see that with slavery. He tapped into the intuition, and you know, slavery all through history has been accepted, but it reached a point of diminishing returns, which he was able to perceive and abolished it.
Yeah, and the funny thing about the South with slavery, they claim to be fighting for freedom.
Freedom for who?
Yeah,
Themselves at the expense of
yeah.
countless lives.
Lincoln made a comment on that. He says, "Boy, they have a strange idea of what freedom is."
Yeah, right.
But there's
So I've
still a
got a
lot of people in the South that think that Abraham Lincoln was the one that was anti-freedom and the South was pro-freedom. There's still a lot of people in the South that still think that way, and handful in the North. But yeah, slavery is definitely, that should be a no-brainer for anyone. That's and it is pretty much for everybody today.
JJ,
Yeah.
had some neighbors once who were from the South, and they believed that it was all about fighting for states' rights,
Yeah.
a right to choose whether you could have slaves or not.
Right, that was the excuse for fighting for freedom, but they also viewed the blacks as an inferior race that needed overlords to kind of contain them. And they thought slavery was a win-win. They thought, well, we benefit from the slaves and the slaves benefit from us because we take care of them. And that's the way they thought about it. Now, I wrote a response a while back about slavery that the most of the states did rebel, and they put it in the reason they succeeded was slavery. They put that in as a major reason. And matter of fact, that's why they seceded right after Lincoln was sworn in, because Lincoln gave a number of speeches where he was against slavery. And that's why Lincoln caused them to secede from the Union. And the other problems, the states' rights and all that, that's and also the tariffs and other excuses they give, they were in place quite a while before Lincoln came in. But it was Lincoln that spurred them to break off because of Lincoln's beliefs. Matter of fact, they tried to assassinate him while he was before he even became president, and he was Pinkerton was able to agency was able to get wind of the assassination plan and thwart it. So there's an interesting book I just read on that was give a lot of fascinating details of how Lincoln's life was miraculously preserved as he was on his way to Washington. That's was a miracle in itself. Okay, any other comments on that?
I've got one, JJ.
Yeah.
Hey, I think if I had it to do over, I'd rewrite that particular question because I didn't do a very good job. But what my thinking was is that with the Dark Brotherhood, the power or the energy flows from the bottom up, and with the Brotherhood of Light, it flows from the top down. And so what I was wondering is when there is strife of any kind, when there's hatred and fighting and those type of things, does that give the Brotherhood of Darkness the opportunity to feed off of that? Do they get energy from that and benefit from that?
Well, yeah, they do. The more conflict they have, the more they can direct the noise, so to speak. And so
So if my part of the question where if a painter could see that and he painted it, what would it look like? Is there actual energy coming from the people who are engaged in the hatred and the violence and so forth? And just take it away from, it doesn't have to be the current political climate. We could talk about any war or anything where there's just hatred and stuff going on. Do we see?
yeah, well, I don't know.
Darkness?
You can paint negative energy with all kinds of different forms. As far as that, there's no one specific form connected with it. But any type of negative energy is like almost food for the dark forces to be able to deal with. And the forces of light have to counter them with a high degree of intelligence, because they can't counter hate with hate. They have to try to neutralize it. And just sending out love doesn't always do it either. They have to be able to neutralize the hate. Yeah.
Anger comes
There was
out
a name given. There was a name given to these dark forces called the Archon, and they're mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls before anything was tampered with any of the literature. These Archons are the ones who are on the other side that control our being. You know, they were the first slave runners for the maker.
Huh?
Anyway, they're called the Archon. If you read the Dead Sea Scrolls, it elaborates on.
Yeah, I've heard that term before. Yeah.
I've heard that anger shoots out like red thunderbolts, like lightning strike
Yeah.
coming out.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, we'll move on to a question from Ruth here. She had kind of an interesting one. Let me read part of this here. At the end of the last solar system, when it became time for initiates to move on to higher spiritual worlds, there were 3 who refused, according to Dwal Kul. They turned their faces toward the gates of the earth. Their friends went on, they stayed behind. These 3 sought physical immortality to retain their works in the world of form. The 3 eventually came to earth and fathered the Jewish race. Let me see what her question is here. Okay, when it says father, does it mean they were, let me see. Let me just go over this story. The Tibetan tells a very fascinating story about, it was actually not in another solar system. It was in the times of Lemuria. There were developed disciples reached a high degree of development, and it could correspond to the last solar system also, perhaps. But anyway, the head of the hierarchy at that time said it was time for people for all the disciples to drop everything they had, all their possessions, and enter into the gates of peace. And there was 3 that felt they didn't want to do this. They had accumulated many things and many powers and many physical things. And they actually, it said they had good intentions, is they wanted to use these things in the service of humanity. And so these three could not let go of their possessions. And they were commanded again, and they consulted with each other, and they decided to stay outside the gate and not enter into the next round, so to speak. And so it said that these three fathered the Jewish race. Now it says something else interesting about the Jewish race in DK's writings. It says that we know that Senat Chimera and his chimeras came here about 23 million years ago, and they created the first conscious human being approximately 18 million years ago. But it said, he tells us that when they came here, that a remnant of the Jewish race was already here. And so he points out the Jewish race is actually the most ancient. And he says that the Jewish race are from a previous solar system. In the previous solar system, most of the people progressed and moved on to realms of pure spirit. Okay. Now, the ones that were not yet ready to go on, but still attached to the worlds of form, did not, what he's called graduate. And in this solar system, they became the Jewish race, and that's why the Jews are so intelligent in this world that we're in, because they're very old souls, and as a whole, like Einstein was a Jew, and matter of fact, I was just reading some statistics about race. A lot of people are hesitant to quote any statistics, but the IQ of the average Jew is about 10 points higher than the average person. But when you get in very high IQs, like 140 to 50 or higher, the percentage of Jews that are in that category are very high. And so there's something about them that they have, they're very intelligent, and the reason, according to DK, is because they have experience on other worlds that a lot of us that are not Jews have not had. And so he tells us that these three followed the Jewish race on this planet. Now, one of the questions Ruth had, I think, is if the Jews actually physically came from another solar system or native to this earth, and DK doesn't give the answer to that. But he does indicate that there was a Jewish race here before the first physical creation of Senat Chimera was manifest here. So
would they be root race 1 and 2?
No, root race 1 and 2 was not physical.
Ah.
It was in the higher etheric matter. The first physical race was the Lemurians. And the beginning of the Lemurian race was kind of in between being physical and material. And then it materialized, and the Senat Chimera and his chimeras worked with them to produce the first self-conscious human beings that belong to this earth. Now, he does say something interesting about these three. These three, they can appear to different people, and he says they will often appear to disciples of the good law. He talks about the good law and doesn't really explain what the good law is, except that he seems to indicate that the followers of the good law are people that are disciples of light that understand the intelligent application of laws. And but it would be interesting if we had an account that we could verify who these three are. It could be some of the appearances of God in the Bible, or these one or two of these three individuals, like maybe the appearance of these beings that ate with Abraham.
JJ,
Yeah,
if I could, I read that what DK said about the three masters or whatever they're called relatively recently, and he had said that they eventually moved on, but the consciousness and the reaction to the consciousness remains, and that contributes to the animosity between Jews and non-Jews.
yeah, yeah, you're right. It seemed like he did say that they eventually did move on, and whether or not they have any connection with human beings right now would be interesting to know. Now, he did say the oldest one of the three was a direct that Jesus was a direct descendant of the eldest of the three, and he makes that connection, which is kind of interesting. And but apparently what Jesus did was he was able to kind of pave the way for the undoing of that holding on to the material side, in the fact that he let all material things go. He was completely into surrendering the material for the spiritual. So he had an opposite lesson to teach. So perhaps part of the mission of Jesus was undoing the mistake made by the three. But he says, yeah, the residual effect of these three holding on to the material things remains in the Jewish race, he says, because they are very good at accumulating money and material possessions, much better than the average people in other races. And he says that the Jewish race as a whole must, transcend this eventually. And so anyway, that's interesting. Okay.
JJ,
Yeah,
JJ, can I ask a question?
sure.
Because I sometimes thought about that. Can any soul incarnate into the Jewish race, or is it a certain group of souls incarnating into the race all the time? I mean, could I become a Jew in my next lifetime if I wanted to?
It's quite possible. Here's my thinking on it, is that we dabble around in different races to learn different lessons. I think there's a group of souls that's pretty much designated to the Jewish race, but even though, let's say, Asaf is a Jew in this life, maybe in the next life, he may want to find out what it's like to be American Indian. So he might incarnate as American Indian, okay, just to see what it's like, even though maybe, let's say, he's connected to that Jewish soul group. So there's exceptions to everything. If you wanted to find out what it was like and had lessons to learn that would be in connection to being a Jew, even though you didn't come with the Jewish soul group, you could probably, my guess is you could be incarnated as one if you chose that direction. Now, with soul groups, the natural inclination is to stay with your own soul groups. That's kind of a natural thing, but it's your choice. You can use your choice to do just about anything you want in this universe. But just like in this earth life, we're meeting here right now because we feel comfortable in each other's presence. we feel a lot more comfortable here than maybe being part of a motorcycle gang. Okay. But let's say Annie thinks, well, that would be kind of cool to see what it'd be like to be in a motorcycle gang. I think I'd join one for a few months, see what it's like. Okay. So there's nothing stopping her from doing that if she's that way inclined. And so this would be the way it would be with races. People tend to stick together, like attracts like, but sometimes you want to go out of your comfort zone, and nothing will stop you from doing that if that's what you want to do. Okay, anything else?
No, that was a good explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're going to be a 3%er, Annie?
What did you say, Joshua?
I said you're going to go in for being a 3%er then?
Oh yeah, of course, sure. Anything.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too about Michael Newton's regression of life between lives is that there are more volunteers for difficult lives than easy lives. You know, you see people that are rich and you think, boy, it'd be nice if I was born rich. That would have been really great. But on the other side, we thought differently. We think, well, I don't want to be born rich because I won't learn as many lessons, you know, and so I want to be born where I have big challenges so I can grow more. And so then we get down there and we meet the big challenges and we think, boy, why in God's green earth was I born in this situation? You know, God must hate me. So our challenges are often, he maintains that there are people lining up for the difficult lives, and there's sometimes not enough difficult lives to go around. So we have to take the easy lives sometimes.
I wish I were born rich instead of so damn good looking.
Yeah, it's a big obstacle, isn't it, Ed? Okay. Well, we've got time for just a short question or two. Oh, he asks this question. He says, when will your class on matter manipulation begin? It's actually began and ended, Scott. It was called Treatise on White Magic, and we had 104 classes on that. So, and they are on online, and I don't know.
Did anybody who took that class, can they manipulate matter now?
I think Ed can.
Yeah, we do all the time.
He grows a mean tomato.
I've been manipulating dirt and manure into squash and tomatoes and corn.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we've had several healings here where what's I would call a manipulation of matter, where people have improved their health because of our meditations. And that happens now and then. It'd be nice if we had power to snap our fingers and make our loved ones whole instantly, but that's a little bit beyond our pay grade sometimes, but we're working on it. Okay.
I got that question. I listened when I worked night shift. I listened to Coast to Coast, and this guy was on there. He wrote a book called Inner Vegas, and he does workshops and 18 people at a time, and teaches them the what he calls use of energy, and then they go in and use that as a group to manipulate dice and so forth on the table, and they have a fairly good winning record.
Really?
So the thing that was amazing to me was there's nothing in their process about praying, there was nothing about you have to be worthy enough to do this. There was not, all of that was removed or never thought of. It was just the correct use of energy to manipulate something to what they wanted to do. And I think that their record was they manipulated the dice on 17 rolls in a row. So 17 times in a row they caused the dice, and this was in a live situation.
Yeah.
But anyway, it just got me thinking about that, and it was cool to see for me that you know, a lot of the hang-ups that we have, as far as, well, we think we're not worthy, we think that we've got to attain a different level of spirituality, whatever the hang-ups we're coming up with are just sort of blockages, because these guys are doing it just for fun.
Yeah, it's
And,
interesting. The Course in Miracles says worthiness has little to do with anything, because to manifest the miraculous, you have to forget the past, act as if there is no past. And that's an interesting statement that it makes, because the past creates blockages for the righteous and unrighteous, for everybody, because nobody's perfect. And so by tuning out the past as if it's not even there can open the door to miracles, according to the Course in Miracles. So I think that's a pretty interesting statement, and there's something to it there.
When you try to use the forces of nature for your own personal gain and manipulating the devas, you're creating pretty serious karma for yourself, I believe.
Yeah, anytime you do it for selfish purposes. Now, when I was a teenager, I experimented with flipping a coin to see if I could beat the law of averages. And one time I flipped the coin so it lit on head 14 times in a row, which is pretty, can't remember the statistic on that, but one chance in millions or something like that. And so I did I beat the odds a number of times, but I haven't tried that out since I was a teenager. I did. My good friend Wayne and I used to play around with stuff like that all the time when we were teenagers.
Sounds like something Wayne would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have a question. Does the Tibetan talk at all about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Could they have been the three people who they stood in the fire and were not burned? I think Nebuchadnezzar threw them in the fire.
I think he might have mentioned Daniel once or twice, but he's never mentioned that incident. I don't think he's commented on that, as far as my memory goes. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. Being thrown in the fire and not being burned. That would be
laughing at him.
Quite impressive to Nebuchadnezzar, I guess, when that happened.
Yeah, would have been. He'd have repented after that.
Yeah, some of those stories are pretty interesting. You wonder what it'd be interesting if we could go back in time and see what really happened in all these incidents like that. And,
that was a real power triad, those three.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we wrap it up here? Well, we will see everybody next Sunday at 10 a.m. sharp. Until then, look at old Rick, his soul is flashing lights on him.
He's manipulating his own matter.
Yeah, he's going to disappear and go to the great beyond if
so.
Gets any more energy going. Okay, well, we'll see you guys next week then, and have a good week.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, you having fun with that iPod, Curtis?
Yeah, I'm using it. I'm listening. I'm going to go listen to it now. That's the best gift. Thank you.
Okay, my friends, we will see you next week.
Thank you. Good night.